Hey, what's good, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Big Ticket. I'm your host, Vic3, joined by my good friend and co-host, Jerrylee. Hey, how we doing today?
Doing awesome, man. Another happy Saturday. Can't wait for some football tonight, man. Stoked. And we got Sixers. Yeah,
Definitely. It's a action-packed Saturday for the most part on the off season, but let's get into it, my guy. Um, this week we are joined by a great guest. A guy who I consider a legit draft guru. He's a man who is a student of the film. He's came to us, grace us with his opinions. Um, Without no further delay, I'm going to bring on Dante from East Coast Gridiron Sports. Dante, how we doing today, my guy?
Man, what's up, guys? Hey, I'm super excited today, man. Like when you reached out to me, I want nothing more than just to collab with people and give my opinions about this stuff because some people's comments about some things are suspects. So I'm glad I'm actually get to sit here and talk to you. So appreciate you Vic and Jerry. It was nice meeting you earlier up in backstage. So let's just have a good show, guys.
Definitely,
right
definitely.
on.
Yeah, I brought you on because I want to set the record straight with a lot of things. A lot of people leave comments. We're mentioning players and they have some takes, but I thought bringing you on here, it'll solidify things that we've said in the past and feelings that we've had. So let's get things kicked off right. Let's just talk about this set as a whole. What are your thoughts so far in this off season?
This off season has been I don't know, man. Ever since I've been watching football, this has been one of the craziest off seasons I've ever seen. And shout out to my man Don in the chat. I see the stats guru right there. Um, you know, a lot of good signings, and then a lot of signings that of players that have gone other places that really should have gone to another team to help them out. Like DJ Chark, I don't know why he didn't head to you guys in Philadelphia. And I know I'm wearing a Jalen Hurts jersey. I just got to represent with my guys. I'm not an Eagles fan at all. I'm a Jaguars fan, but I could tell you one thing. And if you go to my channel, I think it was one of our best videos that we've ever done was the Brandon Cooks signing. I think that was probably one of the most important signings that a team could have done this season, and for several different reasons, man. But the main one is they are going to want to trust in Davis Mills this offseason to just learn and grow. We're seeing a lot of teams that are buying in to these young guys and helping them develop. I always say if outside of 3 years, especially for a quarterback, this is why I wasn't big on Sam Darnold, and of course he was butt cheeks last year. Outside of Sam Darnold, they got a 3 year shelf life if they're a starter, and if they don't show you what they're showing you in the first 3 years, as far as the upward projection, you know, we don't even need to be talking about these guys. So I'm glad that they're investing in the Davis Mills, and Brandon Cooks has had what 4 seasons or 6 seasons out of the 8 he's played with 1,000 yards with 4 different teams. If we're seeing that as a century mark for a wide receiver, that needs to be a very important thing that we always need to talk about. So with that signing for 2 years, that is great for the developmental stage for Davis Mills. And the Texans made a very big statement by doing that. And Brandon Cooks could have went a lot of places and been a solid number 2 that was going to get you 1,000 yards. I know a lot of people say Robert Woods was going to be that guy last year, and I was high on Cooper Cup the whole time, but people are trying to look at him as like that Robert Woods type, and he's actually statistically better than Robert Woods. So if you're talking about potential and talking about things that could improve your team, Brandon Cooks is probably the most important move. I like the way that you guys picked up Hassan Reddick from the
Yes.
Panthers. That was a very important move as well. Um, and it was just a lot of things, man. A lot of pieces got moved. The offensive lineman that the Bengals picked up, man, that was huge for them because everybody knows that was the weakest point of the team outside of their defense not playing up to par. And I always said like Awuzie is the most overhyped cornerback in the NFL. He was getting burnt crispy in the playoffs. And shout out to my man Jesse Bates out there trying to do everything that he can. But yeah, there was a lot of important moves, but I think that one and the Hassan Reddick, I had to shout out you guys. That was a huge move. Not only are you going to get motivated by the city that you played in and where you're from, but what he's going to bring to your team as a young player that's getting you what 9 to 10, 11, 12 sacks a year. That's going to
Yep.
be huge for you guys.
Oh yeah, we're hoping that that move pays dividends, and like you said, he's a hometown boy, and he's going to show out for his city and his team. But also in this offseason, there were some moves made, some coaching changes made, and as you said, you're a Jaguars fan, so let's focus on the Jaguars. What was your first impression with Coach Doug Peterson, former coach of the Philadelphia Eagles?
It was the best move they could have made, to be completely honest with you. I mean, there were some other coaches out there that I had my eyeballs on, but as far as things that were going to make sense and a guy that's already been proven to win a Super Bowl, and having a young quarterback in Trevor Lawrence, and I've been on record saying I'm not the biggest fan of Trevor Lawrence, but if you're really focusing on not only your former first round pick last year and the guy that a lot of people are saying is the best quarterback that they've seen since Andrew Luck and generational talent and all this type of stuff, which I don't see that. But if you're looking at those things, Doug Peterson's the right guy for it.
Players coach.
Yep, former quarterback at with the Packers, played under Brett Favre, one of the best quarterbacks of all time. And Trevor Lawrence has kind of got that wacky throw it down the field and see what happens kind of mentality too. Especially when he was with Clemson. Granted, he had a lot of wide receivers there to build him out of a lot of situations, but Doug Peterson's going to do that, and he's going to build around them. I mean, we've seen the Evan Ingram. Evan Ingram is one of the most talented tight ends, but injuries. You bring in, Christian Kirk. Christian Kirk has never been the number one guy, so we'll see what that looks like. You have a great veteran and one of the most underrated wide receivers, I think, when he was with the Lions is, Marvin Jones is still there. I still think they should have kept DJ Chark. And if we're talking about free agent signing, here's another good offseason one that I was hurt. Go look on our page. I was hurt. Miles Jack going to the Steelers. That was a super duper great place for him to go. We shouldn't have let those two guys go. But he's got Laviska Shenault as well that I think should be the slot guy for that team. So you got two outside presence. You got your slot guy. You got your, your Evan Ingram type. So, Doug Peterson is putting the right pieces together. Brought in some defensive guys that I don't know too much about. I know we got the guy from the Falcons that came over, but I'm still hurt by that 2018 AFC Championship team. And then next year we get rid of Yannick Ngakoue, Calais Campbell, Jalen Ramsey, AJ Poye, Ronnie Harrison. The list just keeps going on and on and on. The whole defense was dismantled overnight. So to say that, when some people complain about their team and the moves that get made, as a Jaguars fan, my heart hurts every day. I don't even know what season is going to be what. When we went and had that great season that we had, that was totally unexpected by the talent that we had on that team. But yeah, man, I love the signing of Doug Peterson and with the success that he's had. I think this is one of the best signings outside of players and coaches all over the NFL. This is one of the best signings in year for a team that's been hurting. And he's not going to let up. So I hope that our owner, Shad Khan, comes out and just lets him do his thing. And I hope we let GMs be GMs.
Yeah.
I don't want another situation where, and Don will tell you, man, me and Don love Mike Mayock. Do I think that he 100% had a grasp on everything that was done when, Chucky was there? Absolutely not. So I do hope Mike Mayock gets another move at a GM and gets full reins, because if you look back at NFL Network when he was an analyst, dude was like, I got inspired to do this based off of the way that he looked at college players as well. And he's one of the smartest guys out there. So let the GMs and the front office be the front office. Let the coach be the coach. If a question gets asked on, Doug, what do you think we should do from a player standpoint? Or how do you want us to fit players on your team? It's important for him to know what players are going to fit inside of his scheme. I don't have any doubts that the guys that they brought in are, could fit really well. But the thing about Jacksonville, you want people to come there and play, you got to pay them high dollar. It's not a team that anybody wants to play for. When Allen Robinson got drafted out of Penn State, and shout out to my man, Allen Robinson is a great talent. You guys should have picked him up. I don't know why you didn't. It was screaming Eagles, and he went to the Rams. But Allen Robinson said when he got drafted, he was like, dang, I got drafted to Jacksonville. I want to be drafted anywhere else but Jacksonville, even Detroit. but you got to pay those high dollar amounts. And I know it's crazy that we paid Christian Kirk what we paid him, but you got to, if you want to bring these guys in, you got to pay them the money. But the one thing about the Jaguars, we had a ton of cap space. We had a ton of cap money. So they made the right moves. This is what, what's his name should have did last year when he was coach and we had the GM there. Yeah, Urban Meyer. And I was excited. I was like, maybe Urban might bring that culture back, that rough, rugged culture of like win, win, win. Everywhere he's gone, he's been a winner. And I had nothing else to say, but I wanted to trust in my guy, and he ended up just being a total shenanigans the whole last year. So, we like to say this on our team.
You got a wiener, not a winner.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, big stinking hot dog, man. Yeah, we like to say on our show, man, like when you're a college coach or one of these newer coaches coming in, especially with not a ton of experience, you are managing literally 53 small businesses on your roster. It's not like college.
Yeah, completely different.
One guy that I want you guys to keep an eye on, and I hope to, one day I hope he gets an NFL job, is Gary Patterson. That was TCU's coach, and the way that they treated that man was absolutely atrocious. To just send him out the door when he brought that program back from the grave. He would be a great NFL coach somewhere. And that was my number one. I wanted Gary Patterson to come to Jacksonville. Like I just thought he was going to bring kind of that Tom Coughlin mentality when, in the 90s when we were just winning, all the time. It was us and the Titans always at the top for the AFC in Baltimore. But yeah, I like it. To answer your question, first impression, Doug Peterson, he's doing all the right things. He's saying all the right things, and he's doing what Urban Meyer should have did last year with all that capital that they had. There's no reason why we should have been a 2 or 3 win team.
As long as you guys aren't playing us, I'll be rooting Dougie on.
Yeah, definitely. Well, hey. for Jacksonville, they should have known something was up when Urban Meyer didn't even know who Aaron Donald was. That to me was probably like the first sign of, hold on, apparently you haven't done your research if you don't know one of the most popular players in the league.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very true, man. It's very true.
Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying it's tough, man. I know you guys talk about Howie Roseman, but having to deal with that since I've been alive. I was born in 89. Jaguars are a team in 95, 96.
95, yeah.
I mean, it's been a roller coaster. Just go look at the records that we've had, from having Fred Taylor to not having Fred Taylor to having Jimmy Smith and Keenan McCardell, and
we've been blessed.
Mark Brunell, don't forget Mark Brunell.
Mark Brunell's my favorite quarterback of all time.
Yeah, man, he was a great quarterback, man. I loved him.
Yeah, he would never reach the Hall of Fame just because of the numbers, but you had to watch out. He was one of the only left-handed quarterbacks that could light you up. So,
and what was it? He was mobile. They went to the Super Bowl.
Should they have gone to the Super Bowl?
No, I'm saying for the Jaguars in their third season, I think they went to the Super Bowl with Brunell.
They didn't. They were in the AFC Championship game.
Oh, it was the AFC Championship. That's right. But they almost got there. They almost got there.
Yeah, I believe we lost against the Chargers. I believe.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, tough, man. Tough.
It was. But let me ask you a question, because for us in Philadelphia, one of the issues that we had with Doug Peterson was his coaching staff. And we saw some of the coaching staff that was in Philadelphia migrated and moved their way on to Jacksonville. So let me ask you, as a Jacksonville Jaguar fan, what did you think of the coaching staff that Peterson built?
Well, again, it might be great. You guys still won a Super Bowl with that same staff. So, like I said before,
OC, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, like I said before, if you let the GM be the GM with input from the coach on what's going to fit his scheme, Howie wasn't necessarily going to do that. You guys are seeing it right now. Like how?
Yeah.
Tyrann Mathieu is still there. Like, what are you guys doing? Like I'm frustrated for you guys just watching this.
Oh man.
You guys need somebody like Chris Ballard from the Colts. I think he's the best GM out there. He brought Stephon Gilmore in. I told Don on the show when that news broke that he was visiting, I said that he was going to sign him. They just got rid of Rock Ya-Sin and brought in Yannick Ngakoue to that team. They already have a Pro Bowl cornerback. What did they do? Go ahead and make them the best probably cornerback tandem in the NFL. That's what Chris Ballard does. and he works out their contract in a way that makes sense. I mean, you got to play the game, Howie. I don't know what you got to do with the way that the salary cap and everything, how people are, manipulating that. What they need to do is do what a lot of the teams did last year, where they found that loophole where if you're going ahead and giving people guaranteed money, it frees up your salary cap. You're not really seeing a lot of that movement happen. You maybe seen it once or twice this offseason, but I don't know what Howie's doing for you guys. But as far as the coaching staff goes in Jacksonville, I think for the moves that they've made and the way that these pieces are going to fit, it might be a better situation in Jacksonville for Doug Peterson and that staff. We won't know until I want to see what they do in the preseason. I want to see, how they're setting these guys up on the defense, because you could say, oh yeah, we signed this guy and that guy. I don't really know if Marvin Jones is going to be an X or a Z receiver, or Christian Kirk is going to be an X or a Z. I don't know if Laviska Shenault's going to move up from slot and move into one of those X and Z positions. Like, I have no idea.
Midnight Green, or move into Midnight Green.
Yeah, man. Like, it's tough though. It's tough being a Jacksonville fan, and I just hope the coaching staff just brings a little bit of that love that they received in the Super Bowl, and Doug just feels at home at the end of the day, because I know it was always in the back of his head, like, when you guys drafted Jalen, I don't think that was a Doug move. I absolutely don't think so. I think he wanted Justin Carson, and you brought him in because Howie's like, oh well, he's there. Maybe Carson might need some competition. Whoever knows what the conversation was like in that room. But do I necessarily think that's going to happen with Trevor Lawrence, especially if he has a fairly good year? Doug ain't going in the draft and drafting Spencer Rattler next year to come in for Jacksonville and just screw up everything. Like, but we'll see. We'll see what they do, man. I just give them, just ask them for advice. Let the GM be the GM. Let Doug Peterson do his thing.
Yeah, but you know what? Quarterbacks got to stop being babies about that. You know what I mean? This is a business. You know what I mean? They got to have the best quarterback to back them up. You know what I mean? Like they can't be like, oh, this guy's taking my job. You know what I mean?
Think about the Carson Wentz thing, and we've said this a long time on our show, right? So Carson Wentz as a man, let's just think about him as the man.
You mean as a bitch?
Yeah. let's think about Super Bowl run. Carson got hurt, right?
Yeah.
Then Nick Foles came in, won you guys a Super Bowl, was lights out. Okay. Then they built a statue of this dude. Yeah, and you were almost an MVP winner if you would have stayed healthy. That messes with your psyche right there.
Yeah, for sure.
Then if people watched him at North Dakota State, he was still injured there. So I don't know why people act like that he wasn't going to get injured and that he doesn't play reckless, regardless of the play call. Then you have the fact that he got injured again with that neck injury or whatever, and then he sat out. And I'm sorry, I think the way that Howie and them were just listening to the fans, oh, we want Carson back, get him off the field, bring him back. That just pumps your head up even more. That gives you false hope that you're going to go out there and do well. And what do? Get hurt again.
Yeah.
So all that stuff, circulated, and then by the second injury that happened, the fans started turning against him a little bit and thinking that he was washed up already. That messes with your psyche, man. I mean, I got to take a step back and look at that. I think Carson is a talented quarterback. I've never been on the record by saying that he's total, dog, what. But for people to think that he was just going to go to the Colts and Frank Reich was going to fix what's messed up here was absolutely insane. You saw the crumble against Jacksonville. He should have thrown about 20 touchdowns last year, or 20 interceptions last year. That's not up to Frank Reich. People are even saying in Indianapolis, stop running so much, Carson. Like, slide. Like, get yourself out of these situations. That's all built in his brain. You can't coach against that on that mentality that he has. He thinks that he's Superman. And when he goes to Washington, Ron Rivera is the wrong coach for him to be under, because Ron Rivera is going to let him be himself, just like he did with Cam Newton. Ron Rivera is to blame for Cam Newton being so headstrong about everything. Cam Newton should have got drafted to the Patriots and had himself molded by Bill Belichick, and we would be talking about Cam Newton as one of the best quarterbacks ever. I don't care. Yep. I truly believe that. He would have been one of the best quarterbacks ever, but because he went to Ron Rivera, who's a defensive-minded coach, and Ron Rivera let him do whatever the hell he wanted, ended up getting hurt, and then we're looking at a shell of himself of what he was before.
For sure.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy, but that's his comparable is, you're going to
Yeah,
Ron
they need a
Rivera.
backup over there for Carson
Well,
in
the sad thing
Washington.
is,
I
even
like
add
Taylor
further
Heineke.
context to even add further context to Carson Wentz when he was in North Dakota State, the fifth-year player. Now, what people don't know is every year that he was at the school, they won a national championship. And for those first 4 years, he was the backup. That last season, he was supposed to start his second to last. As you stated, he got injured. The kid who stepped up in his place won the national championship. So for Carson Wentz, this has been happening pretty much all his life.
And
He's
the
always
reason why
had
he was the
someone where
backup
he
is
was the
because
leader of a team. Something happens to him. They win the championship without him. And then the next year when he goes in, now it's his turn to lead the team, and everyone's a little leery of him because they already had someone who led them, and Carson couldn't do it. So that's been going on since college. I think when it happened in Philadelphia, that was the breaking point. He couldn't handle it anymore.
it's the psyche, man, with Carson. That's it. And
He
now
still got the ring.
he's still, yeah,
Technically, yeah.
he's still
He's
got
the
the
only
ring.
one that won a ring.
Exactly.
Technically.
But when he gets to Washington, mark my words, it's going to be another Andrew Luck situation. And I'm not comparing him to Andrew Luck talent wise. Like when Andrew Luck
Agreed.
retired, I shed a tear that day. I called my wife. I'm like, I can't believe it. Like when Chris
Gone.
Ballard got there and started to turn that team around, it was already a done deal by the way he just fought for that team. Carson Wentz, on the other hand, is going to end up retiring after the season once he loses his job to Taylor Heineke in week 3.
Because he's not gonna take a backup job. You know what I mean? And that's all they're gonna get him for from here on out after this. This is
And
his last
that's
taxi
one of the
ride.
things that's hurt Carson. You know, he's been humbled many times. We've just said it throughout his career. But the thing is, his pride always steps in front of himself. Like he's too prideful. You have to understand the position you're in, and I think he should this year because no teams were vying for him. No team wanted him. It was only Washington, and you have to talk about Washington, a team who literally went to every NFL team asking, "What do you have available at quarterback?" And the only response you got back was Carson.
There's
So
no
like,
reason why the Colts should have had the season that they had. They should have at least been in, I think, the divisional round of the playoffs for sure.
mhm.
And I said this on our show. I said when Carson goes to the Colts, and I know a bunch of Carson Wentz fans, and I told them, man, I said if he goes to the Colts, if they lose, it's his own fault of why he's losing. You have all the weapons in the world. And I think Zach Pascal was actually a very good signing by you guys. The dude had
Me
two
too.
500-yard seasons, was like the fourth stringer on their team. So for all these Eagles fans saying that they're not believing in Zach Pascal, if he comes in and is like a number 2 or a number 3, he's going to surprise you. He's going to get close to 1,000 yards, I believe. Like 500 yards and 5 touchdowns a year, you're not even the fourth stringer. Like, come on. So not only did you have him, Michael Pittman, T.Y. Hilton, you had what's his name at tight end. You had a great defense.
Mo
Everybody was
Cox and
clamoring about Mo Alley Cox, and it was
Jack Doyle.
Jack Doyle. And then you had the best running back, I think, in football is Jonathan Taylor. I've been saying that since he was at Wisconsin. If he would have stayed at Wisconsin this last year, he would have broke all the NCAA records, and we'd be saying that he's one of the best ever. That dude transitioned to the NFL beautifully, and last year he showed out. Why did they have the record that they have, and why didn't they at least get to the divisional round of the playoffs? Like Carson, you have the best scapegoat in Jonathan Taylor. That's going to just save you. He's going to open up the field for you because you have the game plan just around him and all these weapons on your offense. The defense was taking care of itself. They had 3 Pro Bowlers, right?
Yep.
There's no reason why they shouldn't have been a divisional round of the playoffs last year. And of course, what did he do? Didn't even make the playoffs. First of all, lost against Jacksonville, and everything that happened last year was Carson's own fault.
I would have traded his ass too.
For me, the biggest travesty of that whole season was the wasted season that Jonathan Taylor gave. He gave a great performance, and it could have went further had it not been for Carson Wentz.
Yep.
Like last year, you seen Taylor, like he started figuring out the NFL game as the season went on.
Yep.
Later in the season, you see he broke out a little bit, and you had excitement for him coming into the season. No one expected, the production that he had this season. But had he had a better quarterback, I honestly believe the Colts could have possibly went to the Super Bowl. With that defense, that running attack,
Their offensive line was really good last year versus the year before, so that had a lot to do with how Jonathan Taylor looked. Then they, picked up a couple pieces in free agency, and then they did really well. But yeah, man, Carson was the he should have thrown about 20-25 touchdown or interceptions last year. Like, I don't know if you guys have seen those games. It was like, where is he throwing? And that dude just dropped it. Like, yeah, he should have about 5 or 6 interceptions this game. I don't know why anybody would want Carson Wentz on their team at this point in time. He's just a liability. I felt bad for the Colts. Colts will be a dominant team this year because Matt Ryan's not going to make those mistakes. He might be up there in age, and I always compare Matt Ryan to Jared Goff. Like, they just are so much comparably, between each other, the stats and the way that they play. But that team is going to be a divisional round champion this year. They might be AFC champions. That's how highly I'm thinking of the Colts. Depending on how this draft goes, like if they can pick up, who would be perfect for them is Petrie from Baylor, that safety that can transition from cornerback to safety. That'll be a perfect piece for their team. They just lost Marlon Mack. Like if they can pick up, imagine this right here. This would be nasty. Imagine Jonathan Taylor and Breece Hall from Iowa State. There'd be no reason why that team should lose next year.
If that would be the case, they could probably put Carson back in there and still win a couple more games.
Oh yeah. But it's crazy, man. There's a lot of, anything that gets added in the draft for them, it's just an extra piece of the puzzle that, that wasn't really needed, but just makes your team even stronger. And their team is very young. Darius Leonard is one of the best linebackers. Like, go look at the statistics between.
No, for sure. That dude's a beast.
Brian Urlacher and the way that Darius Leonard.
How many fumbles did he make last year? You know what I mean? The peanut punch, man. He's known for that.
And not even that. It's just the intelligence he brings to the field. When you say like a defensive captain, that's him right there.
Yep.
He puts everybody in place, whether you're in the backfield, linebacker, or the defensive line. He's going to put you in his place, and he's going to tell you where to go. He's going to spell everything out for you, so that way the defense can be the best it can be. Like, he's a great defensive leader.
Dude gets like 130 tackles a year. Mm-hmm. That's not just staying in one place. You're sideline to sideline and everything, man. Like, to say that he's the next Bobby Wagner that can sack and cause fumbles. Like, Bobby Wagner had an amazing year, or amazing career up to this point. But if you're talking about that on steroids, it's Darius Leonard. And then DeForest Buckner's back there on the line too. Like, those dudes are nasty, man.
Yeah.
I would compare Darius Leonard to Luke Kuechly. Like I said, the intelligence, he has the physical tools, he's fast, sideline to sideline. Like, that's for me, that's comparison to me. Luke Kuechly.
It's definitely going to be fun watching those guys this year, man.
Oh yeah.
If you don't have the Colts like at least in your top 10 teams next year, you absolutely just you don't know what Chris Ballard is trying to do out there.
You don't know football.
Listen, Jonathan Taylor is not your first pick in the fantasy draft. You're out your mind.
People are still gonna pick Christian McCaffrey again. Watch.
Oh, why? Listen, I hope you do.
My wife
please do it.
My wife won our fantasy league. She picked Patrick Mahomes as her first pick because I told her avoid Christian McCaffrey at all costs, and she ended up winning the league. And she picked up Amon-Ra St. Brown at the end.
Shout out to Philly Mike who picked up George Kittle, I believe, with the first pick.
Really?
In our draft.
Oh man.
It was fun, but let me ask you a question. We touched on Doug Peterson. You talked a little bit about Trevor Lawrence. Do you feel that Doug Peterson is the right guy to help mold Trevor Lawrence? Because I know you said you weren't a big fan, but we also talked about Doug being that player coach, being a good offensive coordinator, or I should say quarterback coach.
Yeah, so there's a couple things there, right? So not only your coach is very important. Your supporting cast coaches, like your quarterback coach or offensive coordinator, they're super important too. But who's really going to push that down the hill and develop this guy even more is the head coach. You're taking the head coach's direction on everything, right? No matter how much you want to scheme Trevor Lawrence to have success as the quarterback coach teaching the intangibles. At this point in time, your talent's not going to get you very far in the NFL. It's what your experience is, and also how you can develop from year to year. Everybody knows Trevor Lawrence can be a talented quarterback. Outside of me, of course, everybody thinks this dude is super, super talented. It was absolutely the right move. But do I think it's solely on Doug? Absolutely not. The one thing that I think is very important for a quarterback success and for the team is how strong your quarterback room is as well. If you're not having people there to not only push you, like think about Jonathan Taylor's situation at running back, right? We talked about Marlon Mack being on his team and I forget the other guy's name, but they could all be starters somewhere. That was the
Nyheim
deepest.
Hines.
Yeah. Nyheim Hines. That was the deepest running back room in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
And iron sharpens iron all day long. So, yes, do I think Doug is the right guy? Yes. Do I think they need to get help in that quarterback room? Absolutely. Who can you bring in that is going to push Trevor Lawrence? I don't think you need to bring in anybody like, Nick Foles or any old head at this point. You need somebody who's going to be young and hungry and ready to dig into this guy. Like he's like, I'm about to take your job. If you really want to see that fight and that dog come out in one of your young players, you get somebody who is there and ready to go. And I think, there's two guys in the draft that I think the Jaguars should go after. The first one is Matt Corral. Everybody knows how big of a Matt Corral fan I am, but I truly think he's the best quarterback I've scouted since Andrew Luck. If you bring him in, he's not going to let up on Trevor. And the way he plays and the way that he puts his body on the line, he was the best player in the country last year. Name an Ole Miss player that was great last year. It was him. If you're talking about, and we were also having discussions, remember around the time that Kenny Pickett said he wasn't going to play in the bowl game, Matt Corral played. So if you're talking about a team player, he doesn't care the magnitude of any game. He's going to be there. So directly going to translate over to him competing with Trevor Lawrence. So that's the first guy. The second guy is a guy named Bailey Zappi that played out of Western Kentucky. Western Kentucky sucks. But Bailey Zappi had better stats than Joe Burrow during his run for the national championship. Did anybody really talk about it? We talked about it the couple days after it happened. But why is Bailey Zappi so far down the list of Malik Willis, who I think is going to be a bust? Kenny Pickett, his only good year was last year. And guess what? He had a Biletnikoff winner on his team at wide receiver. And the list keeps going. Desmond Ridder, I like him. Sam Howell showed out in the Senior Bowl. So he was like number 5. He's going to like number 3 on my list, which is a big jump for me. But Bailey Zappi, if you're talking about not only playing for he was a JUCO player, moved up, came to Western Kentucky, and showed the hell out. And nobody's giving him his praise. And he had a pretty decent Senior Bowl game as well. This is like a 5th or 6th year senior that is older than a lot of these guys, older than Trevor Lawrence at this point. Do you think that he's going to be ready to start and going to bring a veteran mentality to that team? Absolutely. I think over Matt Corral, you bring him, and you're going to either see one of those two guys start, and those veteran players are going to go behind the guy that they think is going to help them win, not only with the leadership aspect, which they're saying that Trevor has, but Bailey Zappi, man, this dude came from the mud. Like, JUCO player that went to a small school and broke Joe Burrow's records. We need to be talking about that guy more, man. It's absolutely insane that we don't.
Well, it's crazy because last year, there was a lot more talk about coming into this season. And then, just like other players that they had, there's always a new quarterback coming in. There's always a new popular guy as draft time comes. And there's someone that falls back. Carson Strong was talked about last year, around October, November. And, that's when the Kenny Pickett watch came. Matt Corral, like it always fluctuates on who's going to be the best. And to me, it's just who do they see that they look like is the best? Who is the most presentable for TV usually? Zappi, like you said, the competition he's facing, a lot of people aren't talking about him now. But when he gets drafted by a team, I'm pretty sure he'll show
Play
out.
for the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers. Who won the Western Kentucky game?
Right?
Because nobody did.
That's like the Wake Forest quarterback. You know what I mean? Like he was all right.
Oh, he was really good.
Yeah.
But that team, had like 6-year seniors on that team.
Right.
It was like, 6th and 7th year senior. I'm like, dang, how many chances are they going to get to play? But yeah, man, I think that's what you do, man. Doug Peterson was a great move, but if you bring Bailey Zappi to that quarterback room and then another veteran guy to come in, that's going to be very competitive, and Doug Peterson is going to eat that all up, and he's not going to sugarcoat Trevor. He's not going to. So he better be on his P's and Q's, because we brought every single weapon in to make you good. And guess what? James Robinson got hurt last year at running back. He's one of the best running backs in the league. That came from the mud too. And then you got Travis Etienne coming back. That running back room is going to be pretty decent. I'm not the biggest Travis Etienne fan, but we'll see, because remember last year they were talking about transitioning him over to like wide receiver as well. So we'll see what Doug Peterson's going to do. We've known him to be very creative with his offensive schemes too. So yeah, Doug was the right guy. You bring in some other quarterbacks, make that quarterback room real tight. I honestly wanted Tyrod Taylor to come to Jacksonville just because he's a great teammate to have. A great teammate to have. Why he's not in Jacksonville right now is absolutely asinine too.
Yeah. He would be someone great to, bounce off with Trevor Lawrence. He's that vet that would, help him along and would compete.
Absolutely.
Yeah, hey, Bird Gang. Let me just say this real fast. Let me shout out everybody in the chat. Appreciate y'all for coming through, man. Bird Gang, I will work on that once I learn how to give out a wrench. As we discussed earlier, I am not vast in the StreamYard getting through things. So once I learn that, wrenches
I think you
will
had
be
to do it
given
through
out.
YouTube.
Appreciate
I
y'all
think
for
if you
coming
click
through.
on their name or something on the YouTube page, then it should give them.
Let
You
me
should be able to give a moderator.
I put a star on it. We'll see what it does. But let me ask you a question as a Jaguars fan, because listen, I said it before. Right now, you all control the draft with that first pick. So, with your knowledge of the Jaguars, put yourself in that mindset. Let me ask you: with the first pick of the NFL draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars select.
And now, is this realistically or what they're going to do, or is this what Dante would do? As in
No, this is realistically what the Jacksonville Jaguars would do.
I think there's two players that you go after. Trayvon Walker's name has been brought up a lot. And shout out to my man Don. I know that's probably going to be first on this list next week. They're comparing him to being a Josh Allen type of player. We talked about this a little bit before the show. That defensive line would be pretty nasty with those two dudes on there. Big, strong. He showed you in the combine that he's super fast, physical. A lot of people said Nakobe Dean. Nakobe Dean's a really good leader on the field, but and the only thing that I say about, and I'll get into my other pick on who I think they should go. The only thing I'll say about, and I know people might say something about Georgia, all those players, but the only thing I might say about them is how many of those players are going to be actually good at the next level. There are a bunch of college players that played really well with each other that all have very specific skill sets. Nakobe Dean is different than Trayvon Walker. Trayvon Walker and Nakobe Dean are different than what's his name? Jordan Davis. And then you had the other defensive tackle that was there. Like, all these guys are so different from each other. So which ones are actually going to be good when you look at the intangibles? Because if you got like three guys that are doing all the work, of course it's going to make the fourth guy look like he's a beast as well. Right? So I don't want to get blinded by that. I'm not going to say that Trayvon Walker's that type of player, but I think Nakobe Dean is a little bit too high on a lot of people's list. But you bring in a veteran presence in, and he's going to be a leader, right away for your team. But I think that I think this is where they're going to shake up the draft. It's either going to be him or Kayvon Thibodeau.
Ooh, I like that.
Kayvon Thibodeau is the next, and I think Jerry, you like to tweet on this. Kayvon Thibodeau is the next Von Miller, man. He shows everything. Aiden Hutchinson has that one move where he puts his arms in the inside and breaks away. Kayvon Thibodeau, Kayvon Thibodeau is quick off his feet. Will jump after a tackle or a quarterback to try to get a sack or
move you out the way.
He'll move you out the way. He has every single move that you can ask for. His hand placement is a little weird from time to time, but he's so speedy that it doesn't really matter on how physical he needs to be. And that's how Von Miller is. Von Miller just swims and gets you out the way, and then bam, is straight to the quarterback, diving after him and doing the crazy dance at the end. Kayvon Thibodeau is like, I'm telling you, man, if we pick him up, Josh Allen is different in his skill set, but they might switch him from side. I could see Kayvon Thibodeau playing right, then going left, and Josh Allen doing the same thing. That would confuse the hell out of an offensive line on what I need to defend. Oh, dang, Kayvon's up now. Okay, I know that he does this. Like, you're going to play with the psyche of a defense, right, as a defensive coordinator. I could see that happening a lot. With the versatility of him, he only played 10 games last year, guys. Like, let's be real about it. Aiden Hutchinson would not have the stats he had if Kayvon Thibodeau was playing. I think he had one more tackle on average. He had one more tackle for loss on average than Aiden Hutchinson had. He had a couple less, sacks. I don't have the stats right in front of me, but I know that the stats were not comparable because of those games. But if he was to play the 13 games that Aiden Hutchinson played, remember Kayvon Thibodeau on the list for all these mock drafts at the beginning of the season had him number one. Aiden Hutchinson just took advantage of him being hurt. That's all. I don't even have Aiden Hutchinson as my 3 or as my 2.
Wow.
I have George Karlaftis as my 2, and I think people are sleeping on this dude, man. I have Trayvon Walker as my 3, and then I have Aiden Hutchinson after that. If we're talking about where you want to rank edge rushers this year, but I think Kayvon Thibodeau would be a great addition to our team. And he already said, I don't care where I go. I just want to be able to start. That's a great mentality to have already.
Definitely.
I feel the same way. I'd love to have him.
Man, for people to say that he's going to drop is absolutely insane.
Yeah, they are crazy, dude.
It has to do with the confidence that he has, that he's going into these team meetings, and, he's expressing. He's very confident in his abilities. And I think for whatever reason, teams are being off-put by that, which is, to me, stupid, because I want a guy with all the confidence, especially with someone that, with the tape that he has, shows he can back it up.
He's one of the 5-star recruits from how many 5-star recruits are actually good players in the NFL? Not a lot. He's the only 5-star recruit like in this draft that was good. Like, go look at Kayvon Thibodeau's tape from in high school. He's been that did not fall off when he got to Oregon. And then this is another thing that I want people to pay attention to. No, the Pac-12 is not the most physical up front. You're not drafting offensive linemen first out of the Pac-12. But I can tell you one thing. If you stay up like I do at 11 and 12 o'clock at night and 1 o'clock in the morning to watch these teams play, Kayvon Thibodeau is in the fastest conference in college football. And then Oregon is always known to be one of the speediest teams ever too. Having to make tackles on those type of guys. I'm not talking about being physical. I'm talking about playing sideline to sideline, making tackles on these dudes, like quarterbacks that are good on their feet as well. He's playing in the fastest conference, and I think that's going to translate well to the NFL because everybody's fast. Jordan Davis ran a 4.7. Everybody's fast nowadays. What's in the Gatorade?
Let me ask a question, because we touched on Hutchinson. He's looked as the first overall pick in the draft. Do you feel that's overhyped or not hyped enough?
He's overhyped. I got a video on the channel, on the page, on our page right now where, I don't necessarily think he's the most overhyped defensive player. That award goes to Sauce Gardner for me. But I think that Aiden Hutchinson is an overhyped player when you really break down the tape. Like I said, he only has that one move. He puts his arms in the inside, breaks away. So if you're thinking about, I'll give you 2 good comparables, right? And I asked this question to our stream, but I kind of want to ask a reverse question out to you, which will kind of answer my question. If you're building a team right now, think about these guys in their prime. And these are their 2 comparables. Would you rather have James Harrison or Terrell Suggs? You're starting a team right now in their prime. Who would you rather have?
That's hard.
For me, it's Suggs.
Okay. Jerry, who you got?
I'm going to say the same. I like Suggs, man.
Then you pick Kayvon Thibodeau. Aiden Hutchinson is an overhyped version of James Harrison. Almost the same exact skill set, right? But, I mean, James Harrison was a monster, but this is what they're comparing. The athletic ability of like a freak is Aiden Hutchinson. Kayvon Thibodeau is your football player. What was Terrell Suggs? A football player, man. Regardless if you hated the dude or not, him and Ray Lewis were like Navarro Bowman and Patrick Willis, man. Like,
Love
and
me
that was
some Ray.
I think was the best linebacker tandem ever. But if imagine if Kayvon Thibodeau went to the Bills, if they traded up and got him across from Von Miller, it would be crazy. So, I mean, with that being said, with the way that the way I did that analogy, Kayvon Thibodeau would be your guys, the guy that you would pick too, realistically, based off of the skill set. Is Aiden Hutchinson overhyped? Absolutely. The only good year he had was his last year. He took advantage of George Karlaftis not putting up 1,000 sacks and Kayvon Thibodeau being hurt. And of course, everybody, what have you done for me lately? Michigan was in the college football playoff. You got to see a little bit of that, that there. But if you look at his stats, this is what I always look for: consistency. Kayvon Thibodeau is consistent all the way across. Doesn't matter what team he plays. But Aiden Hutchinson did not have a sack against Maryland. But then you play, you play other teams, that are bigger than them, like Iowa, and then you get like 2 or 3 sacks. So what?
Do you think he'll fall in the draft?
No.
Someone's
I
gonna
don't
want
think
that.
so, because you're gonna kind of look at Aiden Hutchinson as like he's so athletic that you think that you could probably mold him on a team, and you hope that he's JJ Watt.
Sure as hell looks like him.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Build wise,
yeah, but I don't think he falls. I think he's either 1 or 2 on everybody's boards in the NFL. Of course, I'm not a scout. I don't know what they see, but if you're doing what have you done for me lately type of thing, of course you're going to say Aiden Hutchinson, man.
mm-hmm.
I mean, he just had the better stats, and towards the end of the season, his tape looked a lot better. He put up a lot more numbers, which is what it is.
Yeah, definitely. Listen, I have my thing with Aiden Hutchinson, and I made it known. I felt that in big times he disappeared, just like you said. In big games he disappeared. He had the benefit of that Michigan defense, and also he had the benefit of Ojabo being on the other end. That helped him out a lot too.
I think Ojabo's better than him. Wherever Ojabo
I do as
falls.
well.
So I seen a mock draft that had him being the last pick going to the Lions. I said if they get him, Dan Campbell's thinking about building that team. And if you get him next year, he's going to make a hell of an impact. But yeah, Ojabo does not get enough love for. He just plays so different. Like Aiden Hutchinson is so menacing to watch, versus Ojabo, who's your Miles Jack type of player. So, but I like Ojabo, man. Whoever pulls the trigger on him is going to get a super talented guy. And the only reason he's fallen off of people's draft boards outside of the first round is just because of that injury.
Yep.
That's
it's sad.
It's sad, but
that's a game.
But if the Lions pick him up in the first round, if I was him, I'd be crying. I mean,
yeah.
To be completely honest with you, because he'd always be considered a first round talent. That was still the deal. No matter if you get picked 1 to 32, if you get picked in the first round, you still are going to be considered a first round talent, regardless of what position you got picked. And he's going to be the who's that dude that used to play on the defensive line for the Lions back in the day? Not Homie, but the Zeke. What's his name?
Oh, yeah, the BYU.
Yeah.
Ziggy.
Ziggy Ansah.
Ziggy Ansah. What is it?
Ziggy Ansah. Yep.
Ziggy Ansah.
That's who it was. He'll be that type of player where nobody, didn't have him very high on the draft boards, but ended up being a pretty good player first couple of years, and that's what you want. Let's show your talent in the first couple of years and see what that happens. But I hope his injury is not too bad where he can't recover from it, or it's a shell of himself. But I think he's a good player, man. Yeah.
Let me get your thoughts on the possibility of the Jaguars selecting Trayvon Walker. What would you feel if that move was made?
Like we were saying before backstage, man, his comparable is Josh Allen. I think he's a little bit stronger than Josh Allen is. He's a little bit more menacing. The hand fighting he does up front, especially playing edge, he definitely is a little bit more scarier to go against. But it does bring a lot of versatility to your defense, because I could possibly see him And call me crazy, with his skill set, I could possibly see him being like a really crazy like middle linebacker, in like a 3-4 defense somewhere where they don't necessarily need him on the edge, but
Mhm.
he could play like one of those Mike linebackers that are just all over the place, not necessarily playing in coverage, but just getting up in your face of your defensive line, being a fourth man that you would have to worry about, in a 3-4. But his skill set is a little different to Josh Allen, so I see kind of the comparison, in the way that they play, but I wouldn't mind it at all. I know that they want to go defense, and if you're Doug Peterson, I think that would not be a bad pick. I think his ceiling is way higher than Aiden Hutchinson. I mean, you just have to look at it like Aiden Hutchinson had trouble against Tristan Wirfs and what's his name, Rashawn Slater, and those two are two of the best offensive tackles in the league. Trayvon Walker didn't have problems against anybody. His whole career, the last 2 years, he's been freaking dominant. And the only reason Jermaine Johnson didn't stay at Georgia was possibly because of this guy. So if you're looking at, and I'm a Florida State guy, like that's my other team, that's my college team. Who are you guys picking? Trayvon Walker, or are you picking Jermaine Johnson?
For me, I'm taking Walker all day.
Yeah, I'd take Walker too.
I think it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. So, but that's what happened. Trayvon Walker pretty much told Jermaine Johnson, "You're not going to start here as long as
peace,"
and transferred out. So, which was beautiful for him because he was ACC Defensive Player of the Year, and Jermaine Johnson had the career that he's had with Florida State. But the same way you're evaluating something like that, I know we're not talking about Malik Willis. Is you gotta evaluate that he transferred out from Auburn and went to Liberty, and everybody's giving them the love. Like, nobody's Bo Nix is not there anymore, he was a freshman at the time. He's playing for Oregon now. So you couldn't stay at a big school and at least try to do something. And we're hyping this dude up for something that he's not. So I like Jermaine Johnson. I mean, he's on my big board. I think his skill set is just different than Trayvon Walker. But if he goes to Jacksonville #1 overall, I won't be upset at all. I think that's a huge pick for us. It would shake up the draft. I mean, it's kind of like when Arizona lost the NCAA tournament so early, and it just ruined everybody's brackets because they thought that they were going to make it further than they were. That's what's going to happen to a lot of draft boards. They just going to have to start over from scratch.
This is going to be such a weird draft, man. Like, I don't see the quarterbacks going off. You know what I mean? Like they think.
I think with the quarterbacks, everything pops off. What is it? Pick 7, I think, which is Carolina. That's when everything pops off.
They're talking about.
Let me ask, because we mentioned Thibodeau, we mentioned Hutchinson, we got Walker. You did mention Karlaftis and Johnson. What are your thoughts on the possibility of 5 defensive ends going in the top 10 in the draft?
That's quite a good question, man. Because there's a lot of teams that need it. Jacksonville needs it. The Lions need it. Minnesota, a lot of people are not talking about them, but Danielle Hunter might be trade fodder in this draft.
Ooh.
And I think the Eagles are going to go up and get one.
You think the Eagles are?
Yeah, I think they're going to go up and get one.
Well, you have the Eagles there. There's just
Falcons can be said like their
Falcons they need receivers. So
they need a lot.
So I mean, we just named 5 teams right there that all need defensive end help. So I was telling Don, there he is. I was telling Don, I was like, if you're not drafting cornerbacks, edge rushers, and wide receivers in this draft, you totally missed the mark. Because if all those get swallowed up, it just is what it is. Those 3 positions are very, very heavy in this draft. So if you're missing the mark on any one of those, and a lot of these, and offensive tackle too. Offensive tackle is very heavy in this draft too. So if you're not bolstering your team in the first round, if you have a pick there on one of the top guys, by the time the 3rd round rolls up around, none of those guys are there anymore. Don't be crying because you wanted to be Carolina and pick Malik Willis with your pick, or Kenny Pickett, which might be. I'm telling you, Carolina's pick is the one that everybody needs to circle, because that's going to be I already know they're going to pick something like Kadarius Toney going to the Giants last year. Like when we saw that, we were like, "Are you serious? Kadarius Toney getting drafted this high? Like we like the guy,
right? Well,
Why
well,
would
what happened was we
Yeah.
took
I think
Smith
the
off the
Giants,
draft board,
speaking of
and they were
them,
like, "Oh shit!"
I
They weren't
think the
expecting
Giants,
that.
speaking of them, they might be the turning point in this draft at the 5 spot. They might,
they need a lot of
they
help.
might trade out. They
Yeah, they
might
were
trade
talking
out, and
about.
then that's
Yeah,
what might start, a run at quarterback or a run at wide receiver, whatever the case. But I think that 5th spot is right where if this is for me, this is where the draft might get a little hairy. The first pick, depending on what Jacksonville does. If they go on with Hutchinson and it's falling suit, then goes to the Texans. What do they do? Because they're key. If they go for something other than Kyle Hamilton, this whole draft is going to go crazy, and it's going to start a chain link of moves that I feel that a lot of top 10 talent are going to fall down, and you're going to see teams trying to buy up and trade up to get them. It's going to get crazy. And
So
speaking of, go ahead.
hotcakes.
no,
Yeah,
I was gonna say pick 5 through 7 is gonna be very interesting because the Giants pick 5th, Carolina picks 6th, and the Giants pick 7th. Those are gonna be that right there is gonna make or break a lot of people's draft positions on who they're gonna pick because the Giants could pick literally anybody can help their team, any position. Like literally, there's not outside of maybe is it James Bradbury still there?
he's there. He's possibly going to be on the move, but yeah, he's still
So
there.
yeah, James Bradbury is like the only bright spot outside. You know, Saquon's still there, but Saquon, you don't know if he's going to be healthy or not. But you got the Giants who could pick anywhere, and they pick twice between them, so they're just going to get better and better and better. And Carolina is just going to shake this whole thing up. So 5 through 7 is where everybody's minds are going to get blown.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. But let me get your thoughts because we said you were focused on defensive ends and you got to focus on cornerbacks. What does that mean for Kyle Hamilton? And do you think that is it true that he could fall in that first round?
I don't think he falls past the Jets. To be completely honest with you, the Jets are
At what
perfect
pick though?
at number 4.
Oh,
Pick number 4, I think, is the perfect spot for Kyle Hamilton going to the Jets, just because they
Going to the
need it.
graveyard.
I mean, yeah, I mean, he might go to the graveyard, but like the Jets can use him in 2 different ways. There's been reports about NFL teams really liking Kyle Hamilton because of the potential and that he could bulk up. I have a video on our page that says Kyle Hamilton can be the next Brian Urlacher. For those that don't know about Brian Urlacher's history, he played in New Mexico State, where
yep.
he was a safety. He
Yeah.
transitioned to linebacker to the NFL. If they want him to bulk up, he can do the same thing for the Jets. He could be a linebacker, which they need linebacker help, or he could be a safety. They need safety help. So, or either he can transition doing both, or just some in between stage. Be the next Debo Samuel on defense. But
That guy's a
speed,
beast.
yeah, the speed thing, man, is just it drives me crazy, man. Because what did Ed Reed run in his 40 time? He ran a 4.69 in his 40. So he ran a 4.7. So if we're talking about Kyle Hamilton, that speed crap does not matter. Ed Reed was one of the fastest people on the field and probably the best safety of all time.
Yeah.
So
this is something I always say too. Like, all right, you've got game speed and then you've got like track speed. You know what I mean? They're 2 different things. I mean, you get so much adrenaline when you're playing football too. Like, it's just a different animal.
Yeah, and like I've been saying also about the 40, with football players, you have to understand there's some football players that come from a track background. And those are the guys like you see, Baylor killed it in the 40. Why? Because most of those guys are on the track team. Now, I don't know Kyle Hamilton's background, but I'm pretty sure he has nothing to do with track because, again, when you see him running, you can see he's not getting set. He's not in the blocks right. So that's not something that he's very prolific in. This is something that's new to him. So it could be that, but also like Jerry said, there's a difference between you running your 40 and actual game speed. Because Devontae Parker is one guy I always mentioned had a horrible combine. But when you look at him on the field, he ain't getting caught by anyone. So there is a difference. That speed can translate in many ways. Now, like I said, when you're running a 40, sometimes that's a little too technical for players to do. They're not familiar with it, and they run bad times. But I'm pretty sure
Devonta
if we
Parker
had
is
him,
it is great that you brought him up because
mhm.
he was a first round talent too. So it didn't matter what his combine he did. People
Yep.
knew that he was gonna be a first round talent. So who knows, man? Like people just have terrible combines or people have terrible pro days. And um, what people really like to look at is what have you done on the field? These workouts are one thing. And some people value that very high, like John Ross when he got drafted to Cincinnati. They thought that he was going to be a beast because
Damn
he had an
analytics.
amazing 40 time. But again, just like when he was in college, he dropped a lot of passes. Like he wasn't the best route runner, but some people think 40 time translates over. Granted, it does. But when you're talking about Kyle Hamilton, he's a very twitchy player, man. He's always in a position to make a play like the Florida State game, for example. Oh my God, he destroyed us. When I look at the film there at the Florida State game, it was you thought he was one place and he was another making an interception. I think he had 2 interceptions that game and like 3 pass breakups. Like he's just so good. He's a very secure tackler. And he can get off his break really quickly. I'm not expecting to run 1 to 40 yards every freaking play, but if he's playing strong safety, you won't have to worry about that. You put somebody like Tyrann Mathieu or Minka Fitzpatrick and free and let them do their thing. Man, if Tyrann Mathieu went to the Steelers, I know we're not talking about that, but if he went to the Steelers, him and Minka Fitzpatrick is going to be nasty.
Don't wish that evil on me. Don't wish that evil on me.
Yeah, we're trying to get him. Yeah,
hey, I know you guys got to speak everything to existence, but
yes.
yeah, man, that's what I
I'm
think
writing
about
it down.
Kyle Hamilton. He's number 1 on my draft board. I think him and Derek Stingley Jr., if you're talking about generational talents, and I kind of want to put Breece Hall in that situation too. But those two especially, I think are generational talents. Regardless of how much we've seen them play, I cannot reevaluate a player because he got injured on something freaky. Like
Yeah.
what they did on the field outside of the tape that you watch against Kyle Hamilton against Cincinnati, I was like, that was kind of suspect. But you could also have the excuse of maybe, some of the things that he got burned on were maybe because the cornerback didn't stay with the receiver like he was supposed to on the play. These are all things that we don't know, right? So we can give our opinions all the time, but we don't know what the play calling is like or what he has to read. So if I see it on tape that he stumbled, it might be because he's trying to save his cornerback from, busting out a big play. But that was the only suspect thing. But him and Derek Stingley Jr. are generational, man. They're going to be good. I will go to the bank right now and say, and I've spoke about a ton of players. The only player that I've ever been wrong about when I evaluate them, if I said they're going to be good or bad, was Cam Newton.
Ooh.
Cam Newton was the only one. All these years later that I've been talking about players, I haven't been wrong about one player since. Those two are generational talents. And if you don't go back and watch the tape on the games that they played, not only did Derek Stingley Jr. play against Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, what was Randy Moss's son's name? He was a beast at tight end. Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Like, this dude had to lock up these guys all the time. And Jamar Chase came out the other day and said, y'all sleeping on Derek, man. That dude used to lock me up.
Oh.
Him and Kyle are a beast, man.
Well, let's talk about it then. Let me get your opinion. You said, you mentioned Stingley. You said high praise. You talked about Sauce Gardner. Now you thought he may be overhyped. But let me get your opinion. Who's the best cornerback in this draft?
Best cornerback in the draft is Derek Stingley Jr. If you talk about number 2, I think it's Trent McDuffie.
McDuffie as a slot corner. Let me get your explanation.
So Derek Stingley Jr., you can't really say he's an X or Z cornerback because he can play cornerback, he can play safety. And I'll explain Derek Stingley Jr. first. Is his comparable to me is Patrick Surtain Jr. I think just with the skill set that those two dudes have, they're not putting up a ton of interceptions, and it's because nobody's throwing to their side. But also, they're going to be able to transition well, like Charles Woodson did later in his career, to safety because they already have that skill set. So that's number 1. Versatility, the way that he can go out there and play any DB position on the field, and the way that he puts fear in a lot of cornerbacks' eyes. I'm not throwing to your side. He knows when to get the ball down. He's not going to go after an interception every time. He's very smart. That makes him the best cornerback in the draft. The second one is Trent McDuffie. A lot of people say that, oh yeah, he was a slot cornerback. Mostly all the time when these guys come in, they don't start at corner right away. So I don't know. I don't get why everybody's like, oh, because he plays, slot corner. That's the scheme that he was in. The thing about Trent McDuffie is he's playing against the fastest receiver on every single team. Do you think that's going to translate well when he gets to the NFL if he does go to the outside? Of course. Intangibles can be worked on, but he has the side. He's more physical than what people give him credit for. And he's way faster in his first step coming off a break than Sauce Gardner is. So, I just like Trent McDuffie's tape, even though he was a slot corner. Don't think that Sauce Gardner is going to come into the NFL and be a 1 or 2 cornerback. He's going to be playing in the slot because Jalen Ramsey can play in the slot. A lot of these other guys can play in the NFL. They can play slot corner. You have to have that skill set to be versatile. I don't think NFL team and coaches are looking at guys that can only do 1 or 2. They're not looking for the Richard Shermans of the world because Richard played in a team that was designed basically on them to play zone the whole time. If he's not going somewhere like that, everybody's going to be transitioning them in and out of all these positions. So Trent McDuffie's my number 3. I'll probably put Sauce at number 2. I'll probably put Sauce at number 3. Booth, I'll probably have him at number 4. But Petrie from Baylor, he's just so interesting because he can play both. He can play safety and corner very well. He might be talent-wise the best defensive back in the draft.
Okay.
But cornerback, I think you got to give it to Derek Stingley Jr. And it's just a shame that we couldn't see more games of his because of his injury. But think about all the guys in this draft right now that we're talking about that have been injury prone. Agent Hutchinson has been injury prone. Kayvon Thibodeau, Kyle Hamilton, Ahmad Gardner has had some injury issues in the past. Garrett Wilson. The list just keeps going on and on and on. Devin Lloyd has had injury issues. So people need to stop hanging out over players' heads, and it really just depends on where they're playing. Sauce played in the American Athletic Conference against nobodies. Couldn't even lock up Jamison Williams the whole game. Granted, he played like 3 snaps against them, and Jamison Williams had like -2 yards. But if this guy's so good, lock up this guy the whole game, okay? Ooh. The other thing about it is Derek Stingley plays in the SEC, man, against everybody that's good.
Yeah, SEC is some fierce competition. Like I always say, that's the AAA NFL.
It is. I mean, if you're not thinking that Alabama could come in and be better than Jacksonville on some days, you really don't know football, man. Those kids are good.
Let me get your opinion. Who do you have your eyes on in this draft? Who are your top guys?
Top guys, man. Drake London, I would say, is one of those guys to look out for. Look, there's not. I know a lot of people have been talking about Christian Watson. I don't know why. As you see on my thing, watch film, not the highlights. A lot of garbage time, everything with Christian Watson. He drops the ball a ton. He's not very physical up front. Drake London is the better version of him. Can be physical, makes amazing catches all the time. Played with 2 different quarterbacks with a sucky team. USC is not what they used to be. Played with Michael Pittman Jr. and that's his NFL comparable, a better version of Michael Pittman Jr. What is Michael Pittman doing right now? Balling out. Drake London is going to be a beast. The only thing that people don't like about him is the speed factor. He's not the speediest guy ever. But if he's breaking off of routes and being physical up front, people are going to lose a couple steps on him anyways. Like these guys aren't
slow. Good separation.
These guys aren't slow, okay? So, another podcast I was watching last night, they were talking about, well, we don't want anybody on the Eagles that is not a big receiver. We want Treylon Burks or somebody like that. Or I'm like, look,
crazy.
Say what you want to say, man. These guys, any of these guys could improve your team right away. Another guy that I have my eyes on, if you're talking about wide receivers, is John Dotson from from Penn State.
We are.
He didn't play in the Senior Bowl, which oh my gosh, he didn't get as many brownie points for me for that. But he has Sean Clifford as his quarterback, and it was the most amazing player on that offense last year and the year before. John Dotson is somebody that's going to be a steal for a team, and look for him to be a number 2 on the team coming up this season. Other players to look out for. I mean, everybody's talking about Devin Lloyd to nauseum, but I'll give you a linebacker that nobody's talking about that in the Senior Bowl was awesome. Not a lot of people watch Minnesota games, but Boye Mafe, man, Boye Mafe is going to be a monster. Whatever team he goes to, the dude has every intangible out there. I would not be surprised if somebody chose him in the first round because we're talking about edge rushers here. He can move into that top 5 category. Any other players on that list? Well, we talked about Petrie a little bit from Baylor. I think he's very underrated as well. And then I'm gonna throw this out there because I'm the quarterback guy, right? Sam Howell, whatever team he goes to, it's gonna be good for them. I honestly think if Carolina's gonna pull the trigger on anybody, it should be Sam Howell. You get your hometown guy, you get a guy that has a ton of talent. You got a guy that took the Senior Bowl seriously and made just go back and go watch that tape, man. He was incredible. I had him at number 5. I moved him up to like 2 or 3 after that game. He was incredible. He's going to be a day 1 starter for a team that is lacking at quarterback. And I hope he goes to Carolina because I think that would be the best place for him. But those are, Trey McBride, the tight end from Colorado State. He's been pretty good. George Karlaftis, we talked about him a little bit as well. We talked about Jalen Petrie. I'll mention him again. And then I think another flying under the radar wide receiver that could help a lot of teams out is, and of course, injury as well, is I think John Mechie III from Alabama.
Yes. That was the guy that I picked too, man.
Yeah, John Mechie's going to
I like him.
He would have been the number 1 guy if he wasn't injured or battling injury. He was playing beside Devontae Smith last year. So, but he has a size, he has a speed, he can be physical. It's a great first step.
Dude's quick.
Yeah, Chad Boomer from Wyoming too at linebacker. I think he's going to be a good one too. So, but yeah.
What is it? Oh my gosh. Well, Montana has a linebacker also that's pretty good out there. Covers linebacker, strong side. He's pretty well. But yeah, you mentioned a lot of great players. The Baylor cornerback / safety. I think he's very intriguing in Petrie because you can move him around. So I think he might be better suited at safety, but we'll see. It's going to be crazy. This draft is going to be very interesting.
I'm so excited, man.
Heck yeah.
I think.
Let me pick your brain. Because this week the Eagles had a couple of visits. And some marquee players come through, the town this week. And let me just start off on what took place on Monday night. So the Eagles had a visit from Sauce Gardner and George Pickens of Georgia and Cincinnati, respectively. What are your thoughts on their respective games? We already heard of Sauce. I know you think he's the third, overhyped. What about George Pickens? He looks like an intriguing pick for wide receiver.
I've seen his name thrown around more, and I'll tell you. I'll just let you know with this. Drake London is definitely my number 1. I have Jameson Williams up there. Especially, I think number 2 is Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, Jameson Williams. I think that's what the top 4 fall down for me. And then Jahan Dotson at number 5. Throw Mechie in there somewhere too. And I'll probably put George Pickens at like number 6, right above Christian Watson. He's not bad. The only thing when you look at the way that Georgia plays football, man, is not they were in between 2 quarterbacks and they relied a lot on their defense. Nobody was talking about their offense. Nobody cared. It was that front 7 all last year that was saving them in a bunch of games. They did have James Cook, Dalvin Cook's brother too. Don loves him. He thinks he's one of the most, one of those guys that you need to watch out for in the draft later on who picks him up. But I don't think George Pickens is going to be the answer for you guys. I honestly think the best guy that you guys can get, and on the podcast I was watching last night, they did not like Chris Olave because of his size. Well, what do you really want? What do you really want out of a wide receiver? I don't get it. You have to get what you can get. He's a great route runner. He has great hands. He can cause separation from anywhere, from the line of scrimmage to down the field. Like, the kid is incredible, man.
He's got good catch radius too.
He would dive after catches. That is great example. He would dive after catches and put his body on the line. So if you're talking about people that are going to get you out of trouble, like the Laviska Shenault type of receivers, you go after Chris Olave. Him and Devontae Smith are going to be hell to cover. They're going to be crazy. So you guys are not going to always have a DK Metcalf and all these people. Chris Olave is NFL comparable to me. And tell me if you guys would trade from, would you not want him on your team? Tyler Lockett.
Absolutely.
So there you go. Chris Olave is there in the draft. That's your Tyler Lockett type. Just going to shut up, do his job, and get your quarterback out of a lot of trouble. Unfortunately, Jalen, and you see me say this a lot, Jalen Ramsey will always trust in the play calling. Every single time, 100% of the time, unless that offense is, run up against his skill set. He's not going to improvise like these other quarterbacks. So let's just get that through our head. If he sees an open receiver, he's going to go through his reads. Chris Olave is going to save this dude from the short throws that he makes that are not necessarily on target. Will break open the field to let Devontae Smith get open. Like, he's not only them two. Dallas Goedert is going to love that, having two speedy guys that are going to be able to open up the field. Dallas Goedert is a great tight end, especially when it comes to route running. So what do you got to cover these three guys, man? It would be hell to pay for a lot of teams for him to be on there as that third piece. So for people to say that they don't want him because of his size, the dude's never really been hurt. So Devontae Smith didn't get hurt last year.
Yeah, I don't know what they're talking about. You know what I mean?
And to question the size, he is the same size as Devontae Smith. I mean, and I think
Smith is good at separation downfield too, which a lot of people don't understand. He's not the best route runner. He has very short hands and breaking separation down the field on his route. Chris Olave is better at the intermediate stage of that. So you have two vertical threats that are doing two completely different things, and then Dallas Goedert in the middle. Why wouldn't you want him on your team?
Right.
Hey, that's my pick for wide receiver. That's the guy I want here. But that's why I like having you on. Because it's like, I mention things and you just speak on it as well, and you speak on it better than what I can. Because I think Olave, like I said, is very comparable to Smith. He's a better route runner and a better deep threat. And I think if you have two guys like you said that are somewhat similar but do different things, that's only going to help out everyone else on the team. So I think Olave for us would be an ideal pick.
Olave would be an immediate number 2 on your team. Jalen Reagor, J-Jaw, the rest of those guys, like they're going to take a seat fast. We can come back to this. If Chris Olave gets drafted by you guys, I'm going to mention one thing. I'm going to speak this into existence. You know those Twitter videos that we see of people in practice making crazy, amazing catches?
Yeah.
And just high-fiving each other after? You're going to see a lot of Jalen Hurts and Chris Olave high-fiving each other in practice. And Darius Slay is going to make a tweet like, yo, this Olave kid is cooking me. Mark my words if they do that, bro. I'm telling you.
Let's speak this to existence, please.
Yeah. Great pick for you guys.
Yeah, that would be awesome. But on Tuesday, the Eagles hosted had a late-night dinner date with Matt Corral, the man who you said was the number 1 overall quarterback in this draft. What do you think? Do you think that was more of a smoke screen? Or could it be possible that, we are seriously interested in Corral?
Who's your GM? Anything's possible, man.
For sure.
So with Matt Corral, I told you, he's not going to come in and want to be a backup unless there's a true veteran there. You know who would be a perfect pick for Matt Corral to go to? And we said this on our shows, the Packers.
Mm-hmm.
Because he'll sit behind, Aaron Rodgers and let him do his thing. But he will have so much potential that they would ship Aaron Rodgers out, and he would be the Aaron Rodgers that was after Brett Favre handed the reins off to him. Like, right. I think he's that talented. Yeah. If you guys draft Matt Corral, you guys are looking at another Carson Wentz, Jalen Hurts situation. Halfway through the season, if Jalen's doing bad, or if it's not what they thought it was going to be, Matt Corral's going to come in and he's going to take the league by storm. I truly 100% with all my being believe that, because he's exciting to watch. Nick Sirianni likes the way he does play calls. He likes people to improvise. Matt Corral's going to improvise. He's going to use his legs. He's going to be your whole offense. And people are going to love that about him in Philadelphia. Like, you guys are going to be like, yo, he's the most exciting quarterback that we've ever seen. Because he is. He's going to be the next Russell Wilson. Mark my words, man. The dude, if he comes in, he's taking Jalen's job. And I love Jalen Hurts, man. I love him to death. I think he's the best system quarterback that you could have. You got to design around the guy. So Corral is a best, is a beast, man. Yo, bring that comment up from Matt Hatter real quick.
Yeah, I've got it right here.
Corral posted a rather brutal 38.6 PFF passing grade under pressure last season, completing 5.3 yards per attempt. Okay, who did Matt Corral have on his team, though? He had nobody at wide receiver. I understand that. But if you watch what Matt Corral did last year, he was running for his life. If you're going to speak the PFF stats, make sure you throw in all the rushing stats too. Dude had over 700 yards. He was the leading rusher on his team through like the first 9 games of the season. So that whole offensive line thing, anybody would struggle. Look at Joe Burrow. They would have won if he had a better offensive line. Now, hot take. If Matt Corral was on LSU's offense, they would have won the national championship too, and Matt Corral would have been blowing records out the water just like Joe Burrow did. So the PFF thing is one thing. I totally get that, but any quarterback would struggle under pressure. Just go look it up, man. I mean, it just is what it is. But I get it.
I like Coral. I think he's a good quarterback. You know, even when they had that talk of Kenny Pickett being the best, he was still the guy I was thinking of. You know, Kenny Pickett I thought was, for the most part, a flash in the pan. I thought it was something serious when NFL GMs, you know, were constantly at the games. It shows that, you know, there was a lot of interest. He has talent. But for me, it's Howell, Corral. I think, you know, for Sam Howell, last season was pretty bad because he lost his running back, his whole offensive line.
He lost two, Javonte Davis and what's his name? The other kid. To the Jets. There were 2 like 1,300 yard running backs. Mm-hmm. Then Diami Brown, who was like a 1,200 yard wide receiver, that he was just, everybody remembers the highlights the year before last year, Sam Howell just throwing it down the field to, ever seen the meme where it was like, F it, he's down there somewhere. That was Sam Howell last year, the year before last year. But I did also want to say something about Matt Hatter's comments too. If you're going to put that type of stat up like that, make sure you put how many turnovers that Matt Corral had. He only had like 9 interceptions. Anybody else that was feeling the pressure that he had last year would have thrown about 15, 16 interceptions as well. So, yes, does your stat have context? Yes, but you also have to think about the situation that another quarterback would have had, not only turning the ball over, but also the cast around him as well. The dude was a beast last year. He almost had the same comparable season to when Kyler Murray had with Oklahoma when he won the Heisman. It was almost reminiscent. It was like he's the best player in the country.
Yeah.
He didn't win it because of stats. He won it because he was the most valuable player to his team when Kyler won the Heisman. So
yeah,
just wanted to throw that out there. Sorry, man. I get hype about this stuff.
That's all good.
I love your insight, man. Keep it coming. But let's get back to this because on Wednesday, the Eagles had a day off. You know, they didn't host anyone. But on Thursday, they were back at it again with not one but 2 wide receivers. One you even mentioned, Chris Olave. And the second was his teammate, Garrett Wilson. What do you think and who do you think is better? We all heard what you said about Chris Olave. But Garrett Wilson is someone also said to be a number 1 guy.
Garrett Wilson. So nobody was talking about Garrett Wilson before. Corral against Alabama.
Anyone against Bama looks bad.
Dude, the team sucked. He didn't turn the ball over against Alabama. Now go back and watch all the quarterbacks that had a turnover against Alabama. Come on now. Like, you got to have context here. Alabama was one of the best teams in the country last year. They were a beast. Ole Miss sucked, man. Go look at all the team stats around Ole Miss and tell me, could they compete with anybody? And Okay, let's move on to Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson. Chris Olave, everybody was talking about him as one of the best receivers coming into last year as well. Garrett Wilson, nobody really knew about until last year. So with that being said, not only are you bringing CJ Stroud in as a freshman quarterback, Chris Olave wasn't getting as open as a lot of other guys on his team. What's his name? The dude has a crazy name on Ohio State. He was a beast at wide receiver, and then you had Marvin Harrison Jr. Jigba something, I forget his name. But yeah, Garrett Wilson just had he was just the number one guy because he was the one that was open. He's super fast too. He's another great route runner. I don't think he's as good as Chris Olave, but Garrett Wilson was the fastest receiver on his team last year too. Didn't Garrett Wilson put up or was that Jigba? We put up 7 touchdowns or something in a bowl game. It was something crazy.
I don't know if that was Wilson.
It might have been in Jigba that that's up. But Chris Olave, everybody was locking him up because they knew he was the number one guy. Garrett Wilson, on the other hand, just had a lot of open routes and things like that. Do I necessarily think he's better? A lot of people have him higher than Chris Olave, but to me, the best form of flattery for anybody that's a wide receiver is how many times you're getting double or triple team. Chris Olave was getting locked up, and he still put out the stats that he put out. So, and like you said, Jerry, it's it's one of those things where he created separation all over the field. And whenever he was open, I think it was the Ohio State game against Oregon where he was just outside of the routes in the fourth quarter. He was just breaking through that defense, breaking through the safeties and everything. He was the one guy getting open and saving that game for him. So, if you're looking at it, Garrett Wilson, if you're looking at 40 speed and things like that, you probably want to put him up there, but you don't want to put Chris Olave's catching ability, behind ourselves here. The amount of targets and his catch percentage is very, very good for his skill set. So Chris Olave he's a beast, man. I love receivers that dive after catches or at least try.
Heck yeah.
If I was a GM, that's one thing that I'd be looking for. How many times did you actually go after the ball? Treylon Burks, on the other hand, he might be big and might be strong, but you're not going to see this dude diving for one-hand catches and keeping his feet in bounds. He's just a physical presence. So I don't know why he's so high on a lot of people's board. He's in my top 10, but he's number 8 or 9. So, but here you go, man. Chris Olave all day. Garrett Wilson, wish him nothing but success, but I want to see what he does getting double and triple team like Chris Olave was.
Yeah, sounds good. Also on Thursday, the Eagles were busy. They also hosted, my guy from Penn State, Juan Brisker, safety. Do you think that he would be a good fit for Philadelphia?
I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that one. Jaquan Brisker, he was okay at Penn State. Very physical guy. He was everywhere on the field too. And if you look at his tape, everywhere on the field, has very good hands, can intercept the ball from anybody. I'm a little. So they're going to be playing a lot of cover zone with the Philadelphia Eagles, right? So it's going to be a lot of tackling, a lot of stopping the run, a lot of stuff like that. They're not going to be predicated on doing one-on-one matchups throughout, everybody's defense. It's what they did all last year. Do I think Jaquan Brisker is necessarily going to exceed in that? No, I don't think you bring a Jaquan Brisker to the Eagles. I think he fits more in a scheme like the Steelers, where they're predicating a lot off of improvising. Him and Fitzpatrick would be really fun together, just because they play very similar styles. Just plug me in and out. I can play free, I can play strong, but don't think that I'm going to be as good as a tackler as Brian Dawkins. So I think what you guys need is like a Kyle Hamilton type.
Yeah,
he would fit really well in your scheme, because that's what he's used to playing up there in Notre Dame. They play that cover zone kind of defense too, and they're not asking him to be a superstar. Jaquan Brisker, quick step, great hands. He's very smart too. He's very smart. You see him out there kind of setting up with the linebackers as well, like on plays, or when they have like three wide, he tries to at least try to support those guys on the outside. But I don't think he would be a good guy for the Eagles to draft.
Hey, that's why I brought you on it, man, because I want that honest opinion. And
Did you
like I
guys see my
said,
tweet on that? What did I say the other day? Let's see. I think you liked it, Jerry, the other day. I said Quan Brisker scheduled to visit the Eagles. Here, waiting for some of the Eagles fans to act like he's been scouting him this whole time. Kyle Hamilton. And they've actually seen him play 3, 2, 1 and go. Because they're like, Jakai Brisker's coming. Oh, he's in the facility. Like, y'all acting like this is Kyle Hamilton. Chill out.
Right.
Yeah, man, but yeah, that's what we need to hear, because just like you're saying, a lot of people hear the name and it's the hype, but don't really understand how he would translate and how he would be on this team. I
Daxton
love the
from
insight.
Michigan would be better for you guys.
Yeah, that's another good one.
He's a great tackler, and that's what you guys are going to need back there. You guys don't need anybody that's going to be flashy right now. You guys have Darius Slay that's doing a lot of that work, and Darius Slay's he doesn't give up big passes downfield. He never has, even with the Eagles. I think before you guys signed him a couple years ago, he only gave up like 130+ yard reception ever in his career.
Mm-hmm.
Then he came to you guys and has been just locking people down too. You guys don't need anybody flashy. That covered zone defense is boring as hell anyways. But yeah, Daxton Hill, he would come in and immediately be an impact right away. Not the flashy type of guy, but can hit you hard, can play cover zone very well. So that would relate very well to your guys' defense. And can come up and give the linebacker some help as well. If he needs to. He would be a great strong safety for you guys. Jaquan Brisker, wrong team.
It'll be very, very interesting to see what happens. But let me ask you this last question before we let you go. If you were the Eagles GM, what would pick 15 and 18 look
like? Put me on the spot.
Yes, sir.
Let me think about this. So I think right away your secondary needs help, and you're going to want somebody there to support the wide receivers first. So depending on where these guys fall, this is what I think you should do. I think you should draft Olave first. So pick Olave up with 15. I know you guys have been talking about linebacker, and I see a lot of people with Devin Lloyd as well. But I just think that you guys – I still think that you guys need something in your secondary. So if I'm going secondary, I think somebody that would be really good in your guys' defense that you guys could move around is Kyer Elam. I don't know why, but I think Kyer Elam would be very good for that defense. Physical up front, can play outside, can play inside. He's big enough where you can pull him and almost play 3 safeties downfield as well. Anthony Booth was getting burned in the ACC. I don't know why people have him so high on their list either. But Kyer Elam, he would transition well based off that Florida defense that they played. Kind of was a cover zone. They ran a couple fast breaking, blitz schemes every once in a while. Of course, that's our rival, so I have to watch that game every year when they play Florida State. But he was just all over the field. Like, he's a very great tackler too. So again, your defense is not sexy, so don't draft people that would not. Don't draft anybody that would not help with that. I know I've seen Jordan Davis pop up in some people's mocks. Jordan Davis is not. You guys have Fletcher Cox already, and depending on how he's going to play, you're just bringing another Ryan Kerrigan in, because that's what Ryan Kerrigan's really good at, is making everybody else around him strong. Like, go. So this is one for you guys, since you guys are in the NFC East. Chase Young is super overrated, and here's why. First year he was there, Ryan Kerrigan played about 70% of the snaps. And those snaps that he played with Chase Young being on the team, I think Chase Young had like 14, 15 sacks that year. Ryan Kerrigan was pushing people out of the way, and Chase Young was just doing whatever the hell he wanted. I think if you bring Jordan Davis in, it's going to be more of the same. Yes, he might fit in that cover zone defense that you guys run. I know we keep referring to that, but maybe Devontae White might be better if you want somebody destructive up front. So I agree with you, Mad Hatter, on that one. He might be a better one. But I think you go after Olave, and I think you bring in Kyrie Elam, and I think those two, right away make your team better. If you can pick up a Devin Lloyd, you just have to know what Devin Lloyd brings to the table. Devin Lloyd is going to be the best defender on that defense if you don't know where to plug him in, because he's going to just be all over the place. He's going to make everybody else on that defense look very, very bad because he can cover, he can tackle, he can rush the quarterback. So, and you guys have a couple guys that have already doing that. I think because you brought in Hassan Reddick, you don't bring in Devin Lloyd. They're going to be playing the same type of style. And Devin Lloyd is a very small guy too, which I've already said that I think he's one of those new school kind of linebackers, like the Miles Jack and the Levante Davids of the world. That's where I think he fits in. But he's a game changer, but it just is what it is. I'm a fan of the Jaguars. I know we suck, so go ahead and roast us. But yeah, I think those two guys make it good for you. If you want to throw in an honorable mention, who I think would be really good for you guys' team. Let's say the Eagles trade up in the draft, right? I think this is the one that would just blow the doors off the draft in general. Because I think this guy might drop a little bit depending on what they're going to how some of these teams are going to scheme up to that point. But if you guys trade up and get Derek Stingley Jr., he could play anywhere, man.
I'm good with that.
I know I talked about Kyrie email a little bit, but I think you're either going to play him at an X or Z or move him into the slot. He's not going to move to safety. But he's one of those guys where you bring in, like when colleges scout, sometimes they scout athletes, people that have played multiple positions, right? But Derek Stingley Jr. makes your cornerback room, and learning from Darius Slade, which they play very similar styles anyways, it's going to be great, man. They would be very fun to watch. They would be very fun to watch because they'd do two totally different things, but play very similarly when it comes to coverage. Nest Out West says, I don't want Olave. We need a bigger receiver. What do you see? This is what I'm saying. Like, what do you want? You want Treylon Burks who's going to drop like 5 passes a game? What is the inside of your scheme? What is that accomplishing from a bigger receiver? Do you want to take the top off of defense? We talked about this a little bit. You got Devontae Smith who's going to take the top off of defense, but you're going to have Chris Olave and the short intermediate routes is going to let loose there, and then you have Dallas Goedert right in the middle. That, to me, scheming that is better than Treylon Burks doing this, moving somebody out the way and then dropping the pass right when it comes to him. Yeah, you need somebody who's going to get you out of trouble, and Treylon Burks is not that guy.
Yeah, we talked about this earlier. Olave's got a very large catch radius, and he'll dive for the ball. I mean, the guy's got long arms, and the guy's just really good. I definitely
he has no injury issues. He has nothing. He's just very good. Stingley is I would take all your draft capital just to trade up just to get him. Generational guy.
Yeah, if Stingley's available, say like there's a couple of players that I always say was Kayvon Thibodeau and Kyle Hamilton. If for whatever reason, if they were to fall to say 10, hell even 8, I'm doing what I can to move up to get him. Stingley's another guy too, because like we said, you have defensive end, you have cornerbacks. If say Sauce Gardner is the first guy that goes, and we're already at 6, 7, or 8, Stingley's still out there, I'm going to do what I can to get him in here because that's going to be the cornerback for 6, 7, 8 years to come. And especially when he's learning on the opposite side of Darius Slay, it's only going to help out our defense, especially with the lack of linebackers that we have. It helps everything else out.
He said it looks like a Jaguar. No, this is an Eagles jersey. I'm a Jalen Hurts fan.
Yeah, that's a Jalen Hurts.
I had to do it for my boys, man. You don't know how many jerseys I got in my closet. George Kittle, Cooper Kupp, Matt Stafford, like the list just goes on, man. I got jerseys from like every single team. I love football, man. I'm a homer for the teams that I'm a homer for, but I will be the most honest fan with you when I say that Florida State and the Jaguars, if they are booty butt cheeks, you will not hear it. I'll be the one screaming before you say it. Like, I haven't believed in Florida State in the last couple of years because of all the coaching changes and ways that we recruited.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this year, do I think we're going to make a little bit of noise? I think we're coming back this year. But, the Jaguars, I think we're cheeks. I don't even see us winning 8 games this year.
8. Woo. It looks
8
like
games
Doug's
is
going
the
to have
benchmark
a long, hard road in front of him.
Yeah, it's better than last year. I don't think we're going to have the number 1 pick next year. But I think
Dallas might.
I think if Doug gets like 8 or 9 wins this year, that is a Jaguars fans should be clapping and giving this man all the praise. I seriously
He's
think
definitely going to make your team a lot better.
I honestly think that the Jaguars are in a way better position than they were under Urban Meyer. Meyer was so out of his league, it's not even funny.
Yeah.
At least you got a coach that has coached the NFL. You know what I mean? Like, he's got an idea, and he's coming in there with a
Super Bowl
plan.
winning coach, by the way.
Yeah.
Super Bowl winning coach.
Yeah, I can't put that besides anything. Like, I know Super Bowls are a team effort, but with the leadership that he, displayed and the gutsy play calling that he made, I mean, that's going to be exciting for us. Like, we don't want more of the same. Neither should any team out there. Whenever you get a coach, it shouldn't just be a replacement of a guy that's running the same boring scheme and not getting his star players involved. Best believe it was blasphemous last year before the James Robinson injury that we didn't use him as much as we should have. There was no reason why we shouldn't. He was 1,000-yard running back. He had like 10 plus touchdowns. Like, why are we not using this guy? It had to be the players that had to speak up and say, why are we not using him for him to get involved? And then he eventually got hurt.
That sounded like us with the running game.
Watching you guys do your running game too is like, how many running backs do you guys draft? Like, it seems like you guys just bring a running back in and then include him halfway through the season and then take him out, move him to third string, then put him in first string and move him to third. Like, what the hell is going on with the Eagles running room?
First year coaches, man.
That's exactly what it is. First year coaching and them trying to get, their feet underneath them.
Kenneth Gainwell, this is my prediction for you guys. By week 6, Kenneth Gainwell will be your number 1 running back.
Ooh, hot take.
That's a hot take.
I like it, man. Hey, but listen, we're fastly approaching 1:45 on the clock. Want to say thank you for coming through, my guy. Everyone that came into the chat, I appreciate you all for coming through. Dante, let the good people know where they can find you.
Hey, man, everything, like, I'm pretty sure if you go and just type East Coast Gridiron or East Coast Gridiron Podcast or EC Gridiron or something like that, you'll be able to find us, man. The logo is recognizable enough. You guys see the sideway ECG. Anything like that, you'll find us. I'm not the type to ask for subscribers or anything, but if you want, the best breakdowns that you can find that are unbiased, that are not ESPN.
Man, subscribe to this guy.
with the guy that watches tape, my man Don. We call him the stats guru for a reason, man. He, I talk the most on the show for sure, but a guy that's going to give you the stats and everything, unbiased. You'll know that it's coming from not only passion for the game, but just know that as my tag here says, I'm gonna make this into a t-shirt. I've been saying this the last couple of weeks. Watch the film, not the highlights. I don't know how else to slice it. This is coming from a guy that I do tons. My wife will tell you. We would be sitting watching TV. I got my phone up watching actual game film with somebody. So just make sure when you come into our comment section, you better come correct with a great approach, because I don't mind rebuttaling, but if my enthusiasm and the way that I feel about the game was not exuded just on this little this hour and 45-minute show today, I don't know what is. So but I appreciate anything for our page or our Facebook or Instagram, Twitter, wherever you want to follow us, just know that you're going to get, what I think is very passionate and high quality stuff every single time we release something. And we're very proud of that. And, I love this stuff at the end of the day, man. I love it.
Yeah, man. Listen, people, go out there, go subscribe, like, and if you can, please leave a comment on his page. It helps push out, his content. Appreciate you for
Yep.
coming through, my guy, man. I had a great conversation.
Yeah.
We're gonna have you hopefully after the draft. I plan on doing a panel, and I hope to see you there. I will send you the invite. I hope you're free.
I will be free. I will be there, my man. And we're doing a live show as well, too. So with a couple other guys. So if you guys want to just scoop in and come in and
Oh
say
yeah,
a couple things,
Heck
yeah, I will be able to send you the link. But yeah, it's gonna be fun, man. This is my outside of watching football, during the regular season. This is my favorite time of year because I'm a college guy through and through, and I love this stuff. Love it.
Yeah, man. Thank you, man. And Matt Hatter, appreciate you, man. I appreciate the fact that you're coming back.
Yeah.
Jerrylee, let the good people at home let them know where they can find you.
Backyard Birds podcast, and right here on the Big Ticket. Thanks everybody for coming.
Yeah, man. Like I said, everyone in the chat, everyone that came through, everyone that will be watching later after second Seder dinner, I appreciate y'all for coming through. Everyone have a great Passover, have a fun Easter. It was a great show. My guy, thank you so much. You made the
Yeah.
show spectacular. I loved it.
No problem.
For everyone out there, enjoy your weekend, enjoy Seder, enjoy Easter. Have a good one.
Arvita Beats.